And welcome to the Property Unleashed with me, your host, Mark Fitzgerald. And today I have an amazing guest. It's only taken me a couple of years to get this lad to come and join me on the podcast. But I've got John Brogden joining me today from Pier 24 Homes. That's his property investing company. And he's going to tell you all about it. Great to have you on, John. How are you today?
I'm super, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm good. All the better for seeing you, my friend, as I've known you for quite a few years now, so it's great. So for people listening or watching this, John, tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name's John. I'm based in Leeds, West Yorkshire. I'm originally from the Northwest. Myself and my wife, Emma, we've got the property management business. In the main, that specialises in service accommodation, and we do have some house shares as well. The property management business got started in 2022, and we've now grown that to 10 units. So the bulk of them are service accommodation properties. That's between Leeds, Harrogate and Bradford as well. We've just got a couple more pending as well this month, which is really cool. So a nice 6-bed ensuite in Bradford, and then another property in Leeds just on the back of the hospital, which we're super optimistic for.
Brilliant. Great stuff. So I always like to find out, what sort of brought you into property? What were you doing just before, you've really started to build your property business?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So my background's in physiotherapy, and how I got started in property was I bought my own place in Leeds when I moved there in 2014. And as you know, the kind of price points of properties then were a lot cheaper. So the entry to get started was a little bit easier at the time. I was living in a house share, and I kind of thought this looks a viable option because I could see kind of what landlord was taking per room each month. So I bought a 4-bed back-to-back near the train station so you could get in and out of Leeds pretty handy in 10 minutes. So I let the 3 rooms out to other working professionals. That covered, your mortgage costs, your bills. That was a super way to get started as well. And I think for somebody who's kind of torn, we've got the deposit monies either to buy rental property or to buy the first home. That is a viable way to get started, whether you rent out a couple of rooms to friends or other professionals who are working. There's some really good tax breaks, with your first £7,500 of income from a lodger is tax-free. So that's a cool way to get going. And to be honest, I didn't do anything for the best part of 7-8 years, but then you kind of saw the power of property with the capital growth. And I think that's when maybe as we first met, Mark, was that 2021. And that's when kind of you give us a help and guidance on how to convert that HMO into higher cash flow and property.
Yeah. Well, I remember, as I say, our paths crossed and everything. You joined the Rent to Rent Business Builder, which is predominantly all about HMOs and things. And then I remember, whilst you were out there, you were looking at opportunities and things. You really wanted to convert your home first and sort of put proof in the pudding, so to speak, wasn't it? To get that set up, get that ran. And that was your main project going on at that time as well. And you did that very successfully, didn't you?
Yeah, so that one went really well. And we had a look at the floor plans together, got a handle on what we could do. So we took that from 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and we put in 2 en suites, and we really drove the spec of the property up to command, higher rents, but provide a great product for the tenants as well. And in return, you attracted really good tenants like accountants and doctors and teachers. The powerful thing was, just as we were kind of finishing the back end of the refurb, the mortgage term was up, and a combination of capital growth and the refurb, the property was essentially, double in value compared to what we purchased in 2014. And then that funded the next 2 ventures as well. And that's when we transitioned into the service accommodation model. I think at that time for us, you could, and you still can do, definitely, you could get a really good ROI on the short stay unit above and beyond what we could do with the HMOs and our budget at the time. And that'll be when we got started on the ultimate SA business model as well.
Yeah, so you've sort of been through the cycle of my products, haven't you?
That's the one, yeah.
But it's great because it's all good learning, isn't it? And of course, you've moved into the SA. Now, most people are, when they're thinking of, serviced accommodation, they're all about rent to SA, which is the buzzword. Everybody thinks
Mm.
rent to rent SA, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I always like to say, and myself and Graham also like to teach, that there's 4 different fundamentally ways that you can do. There's probably a bit more actually, but 4 that we like to show everybody are mainly the most cost-effective ways, but equally the best ROI for the investors, i.e. us, and of course helping people at the same time as well. So you've sort of got into the service accommodation side of it. I know, you sort of find your feet, you find your passion in everything, don't you?
Mhm.
And you've gone down the management road with that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. So we don't have any rent-to-rents at all, and I think they're both great models, whether you're doing the management model or the rent-to-rent model. I think you've just got to be considerate of what suits your personality and perhaps your risk tolerance better. I don't know if have you come across Morgan Housel, Mark, his books and his podcast?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so he did the Psychology of Money book, so that's an awesome book. And um, one thing he touches on, he's a big investor. He's been writing for years and years. But he goes on about whether you're building a business or you're making an investment, you don't necessarily go for the thing that absolutely kind of squeezes a queen's head off a pound coin. It's also what allows you to sleep at night.
Hmm.
So one apprehension for us with a rent to rent model is obviously you've got the liability of a guaranteed rent. Now, if you run your numbers right and you stack the deals right, you're grand. But there is a small risk there. With the management model, you don't have that risk and liability. As a consequence, you won't make as much money on a deal, but you could still do anywhere from 400, say, to 800 a month on a management deal. That would still be very realistic. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing. And I know we spoke about it before as well. Like we often talk about what's your return on an investment. And if you said like, I got all my money out in 6 months on a rent to rent, you'd be absolutely buzzing, wouldn't you? Now, if you compare that to a management deal, you get all your money out in 1 month. So you can build and scale quickly.
Definitely, definitely. Now, of course, we go through that on the ultimate service
Yes.
accommodation business builder. Did you, when you joined that, obviously you were already in our, so to speak, cohort. You're in our groups as well, and you've always been very active in there in the community and things. I'm very strong on the communities and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, there's a lot of people that will show you how to do rent to SA and things. When you came in and did that training, did you get like the light bulb moment and think, oh, do you know what they're showing and how they show, because it is about building an SA business. That's
Yes.
fundamentally, there's different ways you can acquire the properties, but the SA business setup is obviously the nuts and bolts of what you really as property investors want to know about, because there's a lot of moving parts in SA. But yeah, when you started to find out more, and of course talking to Graham and things on coaching calls and stuff, and he's very, very big into the management side of things, is that where you sort of thought this is the right thing for us?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, what you'll get on that course is just absolute clarity, and you'll get a roadmap. So it's like a step by step guide. And I think a lot of people have done some pretty crappy weekend courses, and you kind of come away from it. You feel inspired. You might have spent a few £1,000s, and then you've got no follow-up or support as well is the thing. Whereas like with what you and Graham are running, you've got the Facebook group, you've got the frequent calls, you've got the online resources. You can work through it at your own pace, whether you're going super hard and fast or you're going steady away. And again, that suits whether you've got somebody young and single or perhaps somebody who's got a couple of kids, right? And the other big benefit is your questions change, don't they, Mark? You'll know this from when you've built your rent-to-rent business, but the questions you've got on day 1 might look very different at day 30 and day 90, and you're not kicked out. You're there forever. And whether it's you and Graham answering the questions or Zach or Danny or somebody else, it might be somebody who's just 2 steps forward from you, who's giving you the hints and tips, right? or you got Graham at 200 plus units. So you kind of just got the length and breadth of it. But I mean, for me, like when we started this, the goal when we come on the course was to buy our first SA unit, convert it, and then the second. And, we've accomplished that. But when you see what other people are up to, you realise the SA management or the rent-to-rent thing is also a cool thing to explore. Because if, we was running our own SA properties, we were doing a good job of it, well, we can deliver that for landlords as well. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast with like Kevin Hart, and we were discussing like once one door opens, you go into a new room, don't you? And like that new room's got all sorts of opportunities. And then once you get established in there's another door, isn't there? And then you're into another room with bigger opportunities. Because I mean, I bet when you started, Mark, with the HMO rent-to-rent business, you didn't think you'd have a digital business and you'd be partnered with Graham. Like these things just kind of grow, don't they?
There's opportunities everywhere. You've hit the nail on the head there, because when I worked in my corporate job, I always thought, oh, it's going to be difficult out there. I don't, you're going to find opportunities. It's not going to be, and there's a lot of negativity, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear that goes into those things. But once you actually step out there, it's the best thing I've ever done, because exactly like you say, there are so many opportunities out here. Now, some of those opportunities won't suit what you want to do. Some of those opportunities can be dead ends as well. And that's just a part and parcel of life. But equally to that, there's going to be some amazing opportunities, some amazing people that you can team up with, that you can work with, which I have to say, if you'd have said to me 5, 6, 7 years ago, you'd be working with and teamed up with people like Graham, people like Simon, all of those great people as well, I would have laughed at you, because I couldn't see it on the horizon. But by putting myself out there and in the right situations and just being me, I think, to a point, it's great. And it's a lot for me is all about the community. And I always wanted to put, and so did Graham as well, and that's why we do this with our trainings, that, you don't lose access to the training. And if we update it, you get that updated version. Why? Because you've invested in it. You deserve to be kept updated with things. Also, communities. Nobody has to pay extra. Nobody has to do anything. You stay in those communities. Ask questions anytime you want. Like you say, you can ask questions when you start. You can ask questions 2 or 3 years on. We're all here to help each other. And it's not just us now, like you say, that are answering the questions. There's other people now that have got their experiences. And of course, we can grow and help each other in our businesses through all of our experience. None of us, absolutely none of us, know everything. And we don't need to. But 9 times out of 10, if you've got a great community and a great mixture of people that are all pushing to get to where they want to get to at different stages and at different speeds, it can be a great, great place to be in. And that's what we try and help facilitate and obviously push on as well, because it helps us, it helps you, it helps the people that we serve and work with as well. So I love the fact that because you see it from a different set of eyes than I see it. I know what I'm putting together and what we want to be doing. But it's great to get that sort of feedback, to be able to hear that it is moving in the right direction. And of course, it has helped you to achieve what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with you with that kind of community vibe. It's a really powerful thing, because maybe it's when, if you're in a bit of a lull with something, you'll get carried with the momentum of your colleagues who are up to the same stuff, because everybody has the same challenges and similar kind of successes as you go through the training deliberately. But you've certainly executed a really good product.
Brilliant. So what's your sort of the vision and goals for yourself as you're going forward now?
So I mean, in terms of the service accommodation management business, we're just putting the foot back on the gas now, because we've had my beautiful daughter arrived 7 months ago, so it's been a spectacular time for us. Rather than try and recruit new units while we're focusing on her, we prioritize just managing what we'd got super well and delivering a really good product to the landlords. Now we're kind of just nudging forward again. So we've got 2 new units which are dropping anytime this month, both SA management. And to be quite honest with you, looking at 3 to 4 SA units a year would be more than adequate for what we're looking at doing. We're not, we don't want to become like a big corporate SA letting agency. I think one thing that's worked really well for us is it's a bespoke model where the landlords have got easy access to the business owners. And I think this is for somebody who's just getting started, the advantage you've got over somebody who's got, say, 200 units is speed of access. I'm sure you've come across it yourself, Mark, where if you've used a letting agent in the past, you call through to reception, they don't know who you are, they don't know who your property is. To get hold of a person you need to speak to takes 48 hours. So that's where we cut all of that out. So kind of steady growth of the SA management business, and we are transitioning into supported living as well. So that's the next steps. We'll be at a point where, say, if you've got a buy-to-let property, your margins are tight with the kind of higher mortgage rates. We'll be able to say, well, will your property perform better as SA? Will it perform better as supported living? We'll sort that out for you and answer those problems for you. So that's where we'll be up to in the next 12 months.
Brilliant. I love it. And what areas are you covering?
So we're all of West Yorkshire, and we do creep up to Harrogate and Knaresborough as well. So those are the kind of key locations.
Okay, that's cool. So, I mean, a lot of people at the moment will be are interested in all of the different strategies that are out there and things. Well, one thing I like to touch on with serviced accommodation, you see, I've got both. I like the HMOs because pretty much when people are in there, I know exactly what I'm making each and every month. And I know it can be a bit of a concern for people when they're doing serviced accommodation, that it is a little bit more, so to speak, seasonal. You know, you are going to have good times. You are going to have leaner times as well. And that is just part and parcel of the business. But for people that are starting out, I mean, you've been doing this a while now. For people that are starting out, you know, when you do start, depending on the time of the year that you start. So some people, we see it ourselves, don't we? They start, it's just like, well, look at this, I'm just printing money. Absolutely easy. This, I should have done this years ago. And then maybe you get around at a time where it's a bit leaner, and they're just like, well, hold on a minute. It's all stopped. What's happened? You know what I mean? So for people that are getting into this sort of thing, how are you finding the market is one of the questions at the moment. Oh, let's just go with that. How are you finding it at the moment?
So the SA market is still strong. In terms of where it's up to, say, compared to 2 years ago now, there is a greater supply, good quality properties on the market. So when you're setting your properties up, you do need to make sure you're good on your numbers. So running your due diligence in terms of speaking to people who are operating, whether rent-to-rent operators, whether you've just got 1 or 2 properties to look after themselves, or a management agency. Get a good handle on terms of what the nightly rate is and what your typical occupancy might be for that kind of type of property, and then what your outgoings are as well. So you need to be really hot on that. So you do need to be considerate of your winter months. So things do taper down. I'd probably say January is your slowest month, and then it starts to get going again. But I do completely agree with you. When the summer months come, you feel like an absolute expert, don't you, and a winner. And then it does slow down at the back end of the year. I mean, one good thing is using something like Property Market Intel or DNA, because what they'll give you is a fair handle on how that property or a similar property is performing over a 12-month period, and they'll give you the average nightly rate and the average occupancy, so you can kind of get a better handle on things rather than just running your deals on best case scenarios.
Yeah, and of course it is, and it's running almost like you say there. I mean, the way that Graham puts it out as well, because Graham taught me how to do serviced accommodation. It looking over the 12 months, isn't it? It's looking at different peaks and troughs. You know, what are your occupancies? Like you say, you know, Property Market Intel, Air DNA, and things. Don't just look at, oh, this is what we're going to earn. Have a look at, oh, well, what's it going to be like? Worst case scenario. And I always think if you can handle worst case scenario, look at that and say, well, you know, 3 months we're going to be breaking even or at a slight loss, but in those other months we're going to be making so much more. Then it's a good deal to be doing, isn't it? And you've got to remember when you're in those trenches that those months do exist. It's not gonna, you know, it's not going to keep going forever. So it's great to hear that the market, you're enjoying it. So when you take a property on, John, your business comes in, you're working with a landlord, they need your help and support. They're going to use your management service, which anybody in those areas should be reaching out to you. And we'll put links in the show notes as well, so you can reach out to John's company and have a chat with them. And it's just a conversation to see how they can help you. when you, so let's just say I'm a landlord. I've said, John, I want to work with you and everything. I've got, a 4-bed house or something like that, something that you're taking on, or a flat or whatever.
Yeah.
What's the sort of process? How long do you think it will be for me to start seeing returns and things like that in your experience?
I mean, you'll see the returns quite quickly. The only niggly bits is just getting the property set up to the standards. So if it was a buy to let, it's probably not furnished, isn't it? So the only kind of lull you're going to have is that time to furnish your property, to get it up to fire regs. But generally speaking, you can do that alongside the interior design with a matter of a few weeks, can't you? So the landlord might lose a month or so of income potentially. But the landlords were working with the deals after our management fee and their expenses. They're typically coming in, again, averaged out over 12 months of a year, about 20% more net profit than the comparable buy to let. And again, perhaps say that first month where you go live will just ease in gently because you want to get some good quality reviews. You might taper the pricing down by 5 to 10% compared to where you might have it normally to get the bookings in. And equally, the way we set the calendar up as well is a bit more assertively, particularly if it's a property in and around the city centre. It's a lot more lucrative if you can get the longer bookings, right? So people coming for business, it's not just necessarily tradesmen, it's people in suits. They're coming for all different reasons. If you've got guys staying for a week, a month, longer, that's really powerful because you negate the clean fees, don't you?
Yep.
If you've got heaps of clean fees in a month, it'll really drag your profit down. So say if you're looking to book a month in advance as a guest, dependent on the property, would have like a minimum 5-night stay or perhaps a bit longer. So you're really enticing those longer bookings, which is, it's good for everybody involved. The higher turnover model, I'd probably say, comes with a bit more wear and tear as well. If people are just coming for a night or two, potentially for a leery weekend on the beer, isn't it? Whereas if somebody comes for a couple of weeks, they're coming for business, right? So that's a cool way to go about it.
No, I like that. And of course, the other thing to take into account is the wear and tear of a property. Your asset as a landlord, when you use a management company like John's, is that it's maintained to a high standard.
Yes.
The property is maintained. If you let it out as a buy to let, you will get the money coming through and stuff. But also by the end of the 12 months, somebody moves out, and most of the times, it's not always. Well, it's not maintained. It's not always maintained to the greatest of standards, is it? Depending on the tenant types and everything, it can be, you're having to replace carpets and things. Now, you might have had a deposit, but most of the time that doesn't really cover everything that needs to be done. God forbid. Hopefully, they do leave it as the way that they've got it. But equally to that, to be able to have it managed and maintained to a high standard and basically just setting it up is great, isn't it? Already set up, ready to rock and roll. So if I had an empty property and I said to you, John, I'm thinking of doing serviced accommodation using your company, do you have a service or anything where you'll help me set the property up? Or is it just basically once it's set up, we can come in there and we'll take care of the rest?
Yeah, so the landlords we've worked with in the past, we've helped with everything from, sourcing the linen, the fixtures and furnishing, because speed kills in business, doesn't it? So the sooner you can get these things done, the sooner everybody can start earning money, and then it becomes a productive business, doesn't it? Right. So there's nothing worse than, say, if a landlord's got a vacant property and he's a busy guy and he's muddling through trying to set a property up. When you're thinking we could have probably got it done in 2 weeks, it's took you 6. So so we help our landlords get live and then transition quickly into getting bookings in the diary. And I mean, just kind of touching back on what we're discussing there, Mark, and we are in the minority of service accommodation management groups who do deliver this service. And this is something, Graham strongly recommends, and, I couldn't agree with him more, is you should be taking security deposits for your bookings. The guest should be, doing some shape or form of ID check, electronically signing your terms and conditions. You can do it in a matter of minutes. It's super easy. Once you're set up and systemized, that is. but your chance of getting the house parties, the risk is just absolutely diminished. I know landlords and the properties take heavy wear and tear as SA, and the first thing I'll always say to them, when we're at the Leeds Property Investors Network event, it'll be, do you take a security deposit? Do you have terms and conditions? Do you do an ID check? And if the answer is no, you're just leaving yourself open, aren't you? So get your business robust, and that's what we offer all our landlords as well.
Yeah, it's not just as easy as getting a property, stick it on Airbnb and letting the money roll in.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? So when it's organised and structured like that, you can go great guns.
That's it. It's just having the systems in place, isn't it? And being able to do that. And of course, the help and support from others as well that have been there and done it. Because as the old saying goes, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And I think I find that with a lot of people that come up to me and say, well, some people come up to me and say, I've done this rent-to-rent deal. It's not a great deal. And I'm just like, well, how did you know how to do it like that? Well, I didn't. I've just listened to, some podcasts, watched some YouTube videos and things like that. Got a contract off of Facebook and I'm now doing it. Can you help me? And it's just like, well, first and foremost, have you got break clauses in your contracts? Have you, have you set this up? Have you set that up? How is that looking? And like, I didn't even know I had to do that. And it's just like, oh, come on now. So, sometimes paying for a bit of education actually saves you a fortune in the long run. And of course, speeds up your results and things. And I mean, you're sat here now, John, and I'm chatting to you, on par with serviced accommodation because you're living and breathing it. But you weren't like that in the very beginning, were you, so to speak? So it's stages and it's building up that confidence as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think there's a lot of moving parts to the service accommodation model. And, the chap you were kind of talking about there, like he's running a hobby, isn't he? That's not a business, but he's got a big liability nonetheless, hasn't he? It's a very tricky thing to get started in SA if you don't have clarity about what you need to do, both from stacking a deal right to the back end to the bookkeeping on something like Zero. And there's a hell of a lot in the middle, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that's what you get with the SA course that you and Graham deliver, is just that step-by-step guide, the roadmap, questions, whether you're at, step 1 or step 10, you'll get it worked out easy.
Yeah. And that's what it should be. And of course, if you have any other problems, you just ask, don't you? Just ask the questions and we're here to help and support. But it is. And of course, staying tapped into those as well means that you've still got that plateau. I always like to think of it as you've got a team in your corner.
Yes.
So you've been doing this a while now and you're getting out there now as a serviced accommodation expert, which is rightly so. And I'm always like a proud father when I see people doing as well as you have. And I always keep an eye out. And, it's great to pop in and see you as well. If you are based in, North Yorkshire and you're going to go out to a property networking event, go to the Leeds PIN meeting because John is one of the, you're one of the team there, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. So we've got a really cohesive team. It's David Dixon who hosts and leads the event, and it's a really powerful thing to, whether you're just getting started or you've got a small to large property portfolio or whatever, you can get so much out of it. And that's not just for people like myself who are offering services. It's whether you're looking to find your first rent-to-rent, buy your first buy-to-let. It gives you momentum. It gives you momentum, which is there's a lot to be said for, because it can be a lonely business, can't it? Property, Mark. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself. And when you hear what other people are up to, it just kind of carries you along, doesn't it? And I'd strongly recommend to anyone who's just getting started, I'd go to one property networking event a month minimum. If you can do 2, great, but keep going to the same one, because you want to get to know the people there. If you're really kind of apprehensive about things and you're not sure, just go there to learn and make friends. I've made some great friends from going to these events, and it's the same thing again. You don't know what doors will open in 9 months' time or a year or 2.
That's it. It's all the people that you meet. Dave, who's the host there. I did mastermind with Dave. He's a great lad, very giving, very generous with his time and stuff. Always looking to help people as well. very knowledgeable lad, Sarah Mullins, who I've just seen her the last couple of days, actually. She's another one that helps out. So it's great. I mean, any pin meeting is a great place to go. And I would say, there are other property networking events out there. They're not always as good, but any networking event is good when you're getting out there and meeting the right people. And when I say the right people, it's really just people that are genuine, that are out there to try and do something for themselves, that are just looking to connect with people and are just open and honest about what they're up to and what they're doing and things, because, it's all about relationships, property. We always think it's bricks and mortar. It's not. It's about relationships, and it's about getting out there, making good relationships with people and seeing where it takes you. So, I mean, it's great looking at your business. You've now got your plan going forward. You've got your young daughter, young family as well, which is great. I'm super, super happy for you both with that. And that obviously, for me, sharpen my pencil, obviously having children, thinking about the longer term, what do I want to leave my kids, so to speak? How do I want to be there? And we want time freedom as well to be able to enjoy them growing up. And of course, property can help you with that. So, like I say, if anybody in the area has any buy-to-let properties or even any property problems, then reach out to John, because he's in the market for helping and supporting all sorts of landlords with different properties. And, he's not looking at taking everything on, every last thing. It's got to be the right property. So he's not one of those that'll just grab any old property and say, yeah, which so many people will do. John knows his numbers. He knows his areas. And of course, he can talk to you about that. And I think the one thing is, John, and I know you, and I know you'll do this, this is what I can say, is even if it's not the right property, maybe in the right area or the right thing to do, you'll still try and steer and point that person in the right direction, won't you?
Yeah, I completely agree, because, I mean, we've had the benefit where we've been at this several years, and you do build up that network, don't you? So even if it's not necessarily something that's in my field of expertise, I'll either know somebody, or David will know somebody that can point you in the right direction. We've had a chap who's done a couple of refurbs that we outsource stuff to. He did a brilliant job for getting one of the SA units live that we now manage for a landlord. That was right from scratch. So we're not just talking about interior decor. That was a reasonable size refurb. But that landlord got everything boxed off, didn't he? He went to Leeds Pin. He got the guy who does the refurbs and the guy who does the management. So start to finish. So there's a lot to be said for that, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Cool series. That's amazing. So what I like to do, because this is my podcast and I can do it, is I like to ask my guest a few questions at the end. You all right with that?
Yeah, of course, man.
Cool. So what's the best advice you've been given?
Best advice? I think one thing I really subscribe to is, that kind of graded exposure, whether you've read the book, haven't you? Is it Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge? Yeah. So I mean, even I've memorized this, but if you're 0.1% better 5 days a week, that equates to 0.5% better each week, which equates to 2% better each month, 26% better a year, and 1,000% better in 10 years. And that grows. And that might just be on kind of a day-to-day thing. It might be that you just speak to the mortgage broker and get the next steps with your mortgage sorted. It might look like odds and ends, doesn't it, day to day, but it quickly accumulates. And a cool one that Gary Nielsen, who's one of the PIN team members, I really like, he said, run your own race. Because I think sometimes it's easy to get hung up on, isn't it? You could see somebody who's done multiple big deals, and then you can think, Christ, I'm way off the pace. But again, Jordan Peterson said, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not anybody else. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. I always say the same thing. You are, don't compare yourself to anybody else. You are where you need to be. And if that's further forward, then you need to push yourself further forward. But don't just think because they're there, I've got to be there as well. So I love all of that. That's brilliant. So if you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, anybody in the world, who would you like to sit down and have a chat with over food?
So it's a good question, this one, and I suppose more of a personal one. I didn't get to spend too much time with even my granddad, so they would both be there. And then the final seat, I would go for Howard Marks. I don't know if you've come across much of his stuff. He produces some really good content. He's a very successful business owner in America, and he buys distressed debt. He's done a couple of fantastic books, but some of his musings are absolutely exceptional. Do you know how you can listen and read to Warren Buffett's stuff? I'd say Howard Marks is similar to that, but I just really like his nous and clarity on things.
Nice. No, I've not heard of him. I'll have to have a look at that. That's why I ask these questions. That's why I ask these questions. So, do you have a top 3 podcasts you like to listen to?
I'd go. Shane Parrish does Farnham Street, and he's an awesome podcast host. I'd probably alongside yourself, Mark, and
thank you,
and Joe Rogan and co. But Shane's podcast is brilliant. So you'll get some of like people from all different walks of life, whether it's elite nutritionists, exercise specialists, business owners. And the level of questioning is brilliant, because his angle is, if you listen to the podcast, you can learn from their mistakes, because he'll talk about all the gory details of where things went wrong when they're building these huge businesses. And, if you listen attentively, you can apply that to your business and life as well. And then I'll probably go for the property podcast as well with the 2 Robs. I think just for keeping your finger on the pulse with property regulations and where the market's up to, and interest rates and inflation, that's the easiest way to stay up to date for me. 20 minutes a week. That's really cool. And then finally, I'd go for Morgan Housel. So he was the author of, I was on about it earlier, he did The Psychology of Money, but I think he lends a really nice angle on investing in psychology, because I mean, you could say, look, what's Bitcoin done in the past 12 months? Is it up 50, 60, 70%? I'm not sure, but you won't put all your money in Bitcoin, would you? And it's about that kind of, what suits you and what suits your family as well.
Nice. Good. I like that. Got top 3 books.
With the books, I'd go 12 Rules for Life with Jordan Peterson, just for kind of absolute clarity on what you're looking to do. James Clear, Atomic Habits, again, that's just a manual. So I've been here myself, and I'm sure other people have, but if you're struggling to like organize your diary, you've got busy life commitments, you're building whatever, your property business or something else, it'll just help you structure your week. And again, things will start to grow quite quickly on the back of that if you stick with it. And the final one, I'd go Rob Dick's Price of Money. That, particularly if you're a property investor or an aspiring one, if you can get a handle on inflation, interest rates, why the government prints money, you'll be in such a stronger position for the next financial wobble. And I think if you can get your head round that, you can go far.
Brilliant. That's great recommendations. So thank you ever so much for that. I'll check a lot of those out myself.
Next one.
I think one of the things there that a lot of stuff that you listen to is property orientated, but it's also business. Yes. And I always like to say the same thing. I sound like a broken record, but if you're setting up and you're getting involved in property now, treat it as a business. Don't have it as a hobby. Systemize it, set it up, making sure that you're compliant in everything that you're doing, because there's a lot of pitfalls out there for a lot of people. And that really goes for any strategy that you're looking at trying to do. You've got to do what's right for your own circumstances, but yeah, you've got to set it up and run it as a business, which you've done brilliantly, John. And I take my hat off to you as well. You've been, you've always been connected. You're always out there. You're always generous with your time, willing to help people, point people in the right direction. And I'm sure that the landlords that are working, or you're working with, or working with you at the moment, whether you're working for them, they're working for you or whatever, the properties that you've got there, they're in safe hands. Also, just on a tidbit to that, do you also put out a newsletter, do you?
Yeah, that's one. So this is new, and it's it's my musings on everything property and business. So current market affairs and trends, bits and pieces that I've read that have influenced what we do day to day. So that'll be released on the 4th Wednesday of every month. It might take you 2 to 3 minutes to read. If you like it, you subscribe. If you think it's boring, you can ignore it. But yeah, if you could, the link in the show notes would be super. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, we'll get that out there. So if you're interested in having a read of that, see what it's all about, then we'll put a link in there. Click on that link, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be some content there for you to be able to read. I love all of that sort of thing as well. I mean, it's great. So I'll be checking that out myself. So if anybody was sort of getting started, maybe getting out there at the moment, what sort of advice would you give them, John?
A couple of bits and quite tactical ones which worked well for us. I think if most people who are trying to get started will probably be consuming some productive content. They might have some apprehensions about how they're going to source the first deal as well. You know, if they're tuning into your podcast, that's a big first step. Again, if we're kind of looking at the graded exposure stuff, if you just said for the next 6 months, I'm going to listen to a property podcast on the way to work 5 days a week. I'm also going to read 5 pages of a business, property, psychology, persuasion, negotiation book, whatever. So you did that 5 days a week. You also kind of inverted a problem. If there's some people who kind of look at you like you've got 2 heads when you talk to them about your aspiring property business, I'd probably encourage you to minimize that time. And then the last one would be, again, attend at least 1 property networking meeting a month. If you can do 2, brilliant. After 6 months of doing that, even if you just go to a networking event with the agenda of to learn and see what strategy suits you, you'll be feeling a bit more positive, won't you? Now, you still might think, how am I going to close that first deal? 2 things that worked well for us. So if you're looking at the HMO management or the HMO rent-to-rent model, if you don't own a HMO or manage any at this stage, and you might be looking at the letting agent in the room who say got 100 units under management, okay, so how are you going to get around that? What if you offered to one of the landlords who you've got to know, first tenant find, second tenant find, both free? If you like the service, if you think it's good, we charge £150 thereafter, no obligation. Once you get to know these guys at these events, you'll realise they're quite generous. And if they like your service and you deliver well, you'll get the business right. So that worked for us. That got us a HMO management deal over the line, above and beyond the guy who's got 100 units in the room. I'd say if you're looking at, again, just a bit of a tactical one, if you're looking at, say, SA management, and again, there's somebody else in the room who's got 24 SA managements, you don't have any, how are you going to compete? So one way to get around that is offer the landlord something they can't refuse. So say if they make £1,000 a month excluding the mortgage on the buy-to-let at present, you could say over that 12 months, if after our management fees and expenses, you don't make at least one pence more profit than you buy-to-let, we will re-let that property, on open rent to a family, to some younger professionals at the end of that 12-month duration. Now, if you signed up to your course, you got handy with the numbers, you know how to stack your deals, the chances of that happening is super modest, isn't it? And that way you've made them an offer that is above and beyond what any other management group will make. And again, that's how we closed our first SA management deal. Now, just do a bit more due diligence on that one. So you do need to agree the numbers and figures and expenses with the landlord up front, just so at the back end, there's no kind of grey areas like. But those were 2 things that worked well for us, might work well for your listeners.
I love it. Thinking outside the box, make them an offer they cannot refuse. And it's not all about money. The money will come by doing a good job. So like John says, make them an offer to say, let's have a go with this. You know, we're going to put time and effort into this. It's going to cost us in time and effort and things, and obviously marketing. But if it doesn't work out, we're not going to leave you in limbo. What we'll do is we'll convert it back to what it was before. But if it goes right, you're going to make even more money. Your properties are going to have all these benefits. So yeah, don't just have to follow everybody or get intimidated by people that have got more properties. Why would they ever go with me? They're already working with those. That's great advice, John, and really, really good stuff. And it's great to see and hear as well. So it's been great to have you on, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you. It'd be great to get you back in the future as well. See what you're up to. See how things are going for your good self. Anybody that sort of sat on the fence, maybe thinking about doing some service accommodation training or rent-to-rent HMO training, what would you say to them?
It'll just give you the clarity and the roadmap and the support network. It's a difficult thing to get started on if you're just doing it on your own. Whereas, Joe, if you select your training provider sensibly, such as yourselves, they've got clear and obvious testimonials. You know, you could probably, let's say, for example, you try and do it on your own. It might take you 5 years. Whereas if you do it with the right support, you might be talking about 18 months. And you can just grow and scale at a much bigger rate, and with less things breaking and less stress because you've got that network.
Yeah, no, nice. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So do check out thepropertyunleashed.com for more tools and resources, and there's free stuff on there as well to help you and support you. Well, great to have you on, John. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's been brilliant, Mark. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Oh, it's great. It's been a long time coming, my friend, and I got you in the end. So, no, that's great. That's great. So, if you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with anybody you think it will help. If you're based in the north of Yorkshire and you have a property there, then in the show notes, you'll be able to reach out to John and his company there. And, of course, do check out his newsletter as well, which is coming out every month. It's not going to spam you or anything like that. It's just got helpful tips, tricks in your property investing and, of course, in building businesses and whatever mindset stuff he's caught up in as well, because he reads a lot of books and he's got a lot of knowledge. So it's been an absolute honor to have you on, my friend. And as I say, if you've enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe and you tune in again. If I can help you in any way, shape or form as well, then do reach out to me. And until the next episode, you take care and bye for now.